Many of us have those stubborn pounds that seem impossible to lose, no matter how good we eat or how hard we work out. My solution is PlushCare. PlushCare is a leading telehealth provider with doctors who are there for you day and night to partner with you in your weight loss journey. They can prescribe FDA-approved weight loss medications like Wegovy and Zepbound for those who qualify. Plus, they accept most insurance plans. To get started, visit plushcare.com/weightloss. That's plushcare.com/weightloss.
A few days ago, the WNBA revealed it was opening an investigation into the Las Vegas Aces. So apparently this is about some $100,000 bonus payments that each of the players received as part of a sponsorship deal with the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. But what's the issue here? And how could it impact the Aces? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I sit down with UNLV professor of sport management, Dr. Nancy Loh. And we talk about why sports leagues have salary caps and that tricky gray area between endorsement deals and pay-to-play schemes. It's Wednesday, May 22nd. I'm Sonia Cho Swanson, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Dr. Loh, thanks for being here. Why is the WNBA investigating the Aces right now?
Well, I think it's a duty that they need to perform because, in essence, this new sponsorship deal is very unique and it is something that we have not seen before in the WNBA. And so I think they're compelled to investigate it just to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
What makes it unique?
Well, the interesting thing that the LVCBA did is they committed $100,000 per player in sponsorship with the agreement that the players would basically continue to play and represent Las Vegas. And in doing this kind of deal, they worked directly with the agents of each player. They did not work with the Aces organization, which would have presented a problem for the WNBA. It's very similar to a name, image, likeness deal done in college. People have become familiar with that concept where individual athletes receive money for their name, image, likeness being used in coordination with a brand or a company. It's very similar to that.
So it's basically like Michael Jordan and Nike. That's a name, image, likeness.
A'ja Wilson and Nike, A'ja Wilson and Gatorade, A'ja Wilson and Frito-Lay. Absolutely.
Okay, so athletes are paid to endorse products and companies all the time. Correct. Exactly as you mentioned, A'ja Wilson. I think Kelsey Plum also got some really lucrative deals. Why is the WNBA being like, this might be a little different from that Gatorade deal you signed last year?
I think the biggest reason is because it was every member of the team. If this had just been a deal that was done with A'ja or Kelsey or Chelsea or Jackie, pick one of the players, it wouldn't have raised any eyebrows. But the fact that they signed every single player for the same amount of money, that raised some eyebrows as far as how is this going to run up against some of the rules that they have in place to create competitive equity, right? So the salary cap, the whole reason that we have a salary cap in professional sport is to make sure that there's not $1 billion or a billionaire owner who can pay his or her athletes so much more money than any other team. And therefore, basically, they could get all of the very best athletes because they were paying them all more. And then the worst team in the league would be paying the least amount of money in essence, right? So that's the notion behind a salary cap, is that there is a limit to how much any team can pay in the amount of salary. Now, that doesn't mean that they couldn't spend a great deal more money on one player than another. Obviously, there are very big differences between a rookie coming in, a Kate Martin, right, a A'ja. But a player like A'ja Wilson, who's been an MVP, who's won all these accolades, clearly she's going to make a high salary, right? So it becomes a exercise in trying to make the most of your salaries as the GM and the president of the team.
Because each team has an overall salary cap that they can sort of divvy up among their players, right? Is that kind of the idea? There's two kinds of salary cap. There's salary cap per player and then salary cap kind of in aggregate for the whole team.
There's a salary cap for the league.
Okay.
So every team has to hold to the salary cap, and that's what creates the competitive equity.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. So let me come back to this idea of like pay for play. So I understand that there's some rules in the WNBA that say, yes, you can get endorsements, but it kind of has to follow a few certain guidelines. So what are some of the guidelines for these endorsement type deals?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting from the standpoint of what individual athletes are allowed to do. So in this case, one of the things that has not been prominent within the WNBA to the degree that it is in the NBA
Mm-hmm.
is the amount of endorsement deals that individual athletes get. So this is a phenomenon that's been true across the board in women's sport. If you looked up, highest paid athletes, and there's always a list every year,
Oh, yeah.
most of the time that is a reflection of sponsorship deals, endorsement deals. So take in consideration that depending on the sport, their salary could very well be a small amount of money compared to the amount of money they make in sponsorships. A'ja Wilson is a great example. She's going to make a great deal more money in sponsorships than she'll make from the WNBA. And that's a place that, that's a phenomenon that's been common in other sport leagues. But at the same time, if you're playing for the NFL, you can have multi-million-dollar contracts, right? Same with MLB, same with NBA, same with NHL. The WNBA isn't there yet. The amount of money that the players earn in salary has become something that a lot of people have been paying attention to, a lightning rod, if you will, right? When Caitlin Clark came into the league and people saw what she was going to be paid as a rookie, it seems like a small amount of money to your average, fan of major league sports, right? Of mainstream sports. And, there's a number of reasons for that. And even if I tell you all the reasons for that still is an issue. And it's nice. It's good in a way that this has come to our attention and to our awareness, because the reality of the WNBA is these are the world-class athletes. These are the best in the world, the most elite women's basketball players. And I say the world because we also recruit, right, athletes from around the world to play in the WNBA. And there are other leagues in other countries, professional women's leagues. But the WNBA, by and far, is the very best. Now, do they pay the most money? No. Why did Brittany Griner play in Russia? Because she made millions of dollars playing in Russia, right? So it's been known for quite some time that a lot of WNBA players play overseas in the off season to make money, right? And often made far more money. Diana Taurasi is a great example of someone who's made far more money playing overseas than she'll ever make in the WNBA. Wow. So, this is a problem that needs to get rectified. And part of it is the overall business model of the WNBA. For years, I argue that the women's sport in general, all women's sport, the value has been suppressed. And I argue that it is based on the lack of media coverage. So media coverage for women's sport has been documented as 4% through scholarly research. And that means 96% of everything we're exposed to is men's sport.
Wow.
Which that's where the value proposition comes in, right? Why do sponsors invest in sport? Because they want to get viewership, because they want to build their brand around another brand that's getting tons of visibility. If the media doesn't cover women's sport, then it's like it doesn't exist. And that's been the problem for decades. It's been the problem for so long that now people are like, is this just the Caitlin Clark effect? It absolutely is not. For a long, long period of time, fans of women's sport, which I will remind you, 50% of all fans of women's sport are men. People like to think that fans of women's sport are exclusively women, and that is not true. Fans of women's sport have become extremely adept at finding the content they want to watch. And I say that because that's not the case with the NFL, Major League Baseball, et cetera. All you have to do is walk into a sports bar and you're going to be watching.
It's everywhere.
Right?
It's everywhere.
You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even that passive viewing is so important because, pretty soon you catch yourself watching a game and you start thinking, oh, this is a pretty good team. This is a great athlete. I might start watching them more often.
It's like a feedback loop. The more it's out there, the more people become fans, the more people watch, the more you become a fan.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But what's happening now and what's changing the business model is there are media companies. ION is a really great example. And now Disney, which owns ESPN, and other major media, Amazon even, are getting into buying broadcast rights, buying streaming rights for the WNBA, the NWSL, the women's sport products, WTA, LPGA, etc. And that's the game changer. So to be able to access the product is the biggest key. This is the very first year that every single WNBA game will be televised somewhere.
Wow.
So I see this sponsorship, getting back to the LVCVA's commitment to the ACES players. I see this sponsorship as another one of those cutting edge, innovative approaches to doing what's right on behalf of the athletes. Okay. Like I said, these are world-class athletes who deserve to be paid like world-class athletes. And in the case of the LVCVA, they see the value proposition that is offered by having not just the Jackie Youngs, not just the Kelsey Plums, but also the Sydney Colsons and also the Kate Martins, the rookies, right? Representing the city of Las Vegas every time they play. You know, that's something that in name, image, likeness, we kind of take for granted. A lot of those athletes don't necessarily understand how they're representing the university when they play, but that's a part of the value proposition.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds, and I'm here with Keith, co-star of my upcoming film, If, only in theaters May 17th. Do you want to tell people the big news? All right, I'll do it. Sign up now and you'll get unlimited for $15 a month and 6 months of Paramount Plus Essential Plan on us. MintMobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 equivalent to $15 per month. Unlimited over 40 gigabytes per month. Face lower speeds. Videos at 480p. Active Mint customers by 531.24 get 6 months of Paramount Plus Essential Plan. Auto renews after 6 months. Offer ends May 31st, 2024. Separate Paramount Plus registration required. Terms and conditions apply if rated PG.
Your brain needs support, and new Ollie Brainy Chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
There's so much legalese in this specific collective bargaining agreement that I was really trying to dig through the other day. So my question is really about exactly what you said about that value proposition, because the rules say that the agreement can't be a low value for the sponsor, right? It's like you got to kind of get your money's worth. If you're giving them $100K, you got to get $100K worth of value from it, because otherwise it's sort of like could be sort of like under the table money. You're just giving them money for a different reason. You're not actually getting that marketing value back. So that seems to be where the issue is with this LVCVA payment.
Well, I wouldn't call it payment. I would call it sponsorship, which is exactly what it is. The way that sponsorship works is one brand associates with another brand because there is value there. So the other piece that is so important to understand about how the value proposition has changed. These women athletes have some of the highest number of followers on social media. Social media has been a phenomenal shift, presented in a phenomenal shift for women athletes and women's sport. The way that we measure the value that, say, an LVCVA gets out of $100,000 going to one of these ACES players, any of these ACES players, is going to be measured like any other media deal. So yes, what is the viewership on television? That's one thing. And those numbers keep going up and up and up. The other thing is, what is their social media platform? How many followers do they have? What kind of influence do they have, right? You have to remember the ACES as a team are now iconic. They are not like every other WNBA team anymore. You know, the documentary that just came out, you know, ACES versus everyone is absolutely where we are, right? And we are going to, I say we because I consider myself a very big ACES fan, been there since the beginning. As a team, they have, I would say, far more pressure on them because every team brings their best when they come to play the ACES. But they also then have the magnifying glass on them. Everything they do is under scrutiny. And that's how they felt last year. I think that's, again, how they feel this year, that anything they do, everybody is watching very, very closely. Without question, they have the best culture. They have an amazing culture, and that goes back to Becky Hammon. You know, keep in mind, you want to talk about somebody who's not making enough money. Becky Hammon could be making 15 times what she's making as a salary as the ACES coach if she goes to the NBA. People are like, are we going to lose her to the NBA? I would say, yes, we are. When? I don't know. But she would be crazy, just like anyone else, to continue to allow the value of what she's worth to be suppressed at the level that it currently is. Yeah. So part of it is helping people understand that these women present far more value than has been associated with them in the past. Nobody would blink an eye at $100,000 being spent by the LVCVA for a player representing VGK or the Raiders.
Wow. Okay.
In fact, they would say $100K, really? Like, what is that for? You know, one time showing up at an event. I mean, so think about that. They're talking about a season-long sponsorship for $100K for an athlete versus literally, if you want Max to come from the Raiders, you're probably paying $100K to have him show up to an event. I don't know what his fee is, but trust me, that doesn't go very far with those guys.
Interesting. The WNBA Players Union will get to renegotiate their agreement with the league in 2025, coming up. That includes salary floors and ceilings, as well as possibly revenue sharing. So what should they be thinking about? And I guess the question for me is, when the Aces sell out our arena, should they get a piece of the action?
Number one, the WNBA League has got to get a better broadcast rights deal. They need to double, at minimum, what they're currently receiving. One of the big challenges there is that the NBA wants to continue to have control over that. I personally think the WNBA should step away, but that's definitely way above my area of influence. So, but nonetheless, the current broadcast deal that the WNBA has is far less than what they're worth, and that's such a critical piece of the pie because that's multi-millions of dollars that then will be allowed to go back to the players, right? Back to the franchises. But how does it go back? As you said, the collective bargaining agreement. The NBA currently pays more than 50% of their revenue directly to the players through the collective bargaining agreement. The WNBA does not. So that's the starting place, is they've got to get more of the revenue sharing happening within their collective bargaining agreement. And, you know, it's kind of like one step that follows another. First, the broadcast rights deals have to increase. And then second, the collective bargaining agreement needs to get a bigger piece of that pie. When games sell out, which we're having multiple games sell out this year, including the one coming up this weekend with Caitlin Clark's team coming to play, the Indiana team, you know, that's good for everybody. That's good for the broadcast companies. That's good for ESPN, obviously. That's good for the advertisers, the sponsors who are investing. That's what I'm saying. You know, this is where the value proposition lies. So the more sellouts, the more viewers, the more fans we build, the greater the potential for revenue is. Keep in mind, there's multiple revenue streams, right? One of the areas where revenue has been suppressed for women's sport in general that we're finally starting to improve to some degree is merchandise. You know, for the longest time, you couldn't get good merchandise. And they're finally figuring out that women want merchandise that looks like something a woman would wear, not just unisex T-shirts.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of getting, you know, extra large T-shirts thrown at me that I'll never wear.
They make good kitchen rags, though.
I got too many of them already. But also kids, right? I mean, people might probably, especially those who are guys and have been in charge of these sorts of things forever, never thought that we needed things for babies, right? That say Aces. But we do. People love to dress their kids up, even babies, in Aces gear. So, you know, the more merchandise, the more creative that merchandise is, the bigger that revenue stream becomes, right? So there's multiple areas of improving the overall revenue for the league. And that's why I said the business model has got to evolve as the recognition of the value that these women present through the incredible play that they demonstrate on the court and the incredible personalities that they are off the court.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Lowe, are you going to the game this weekend?
Absolutely. Taking about 16 friends along. So, yeah, it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a sellout. It's going to be a great crowd. I'm a big fan of the Aces as a team, of their culture, of what Becky does as a coach. I'm a big fan of the leadership with Nikki Fargas and and the leadership, of that franchise. And I really hope that Caitlin can hold her own in some ways. I think, it's been a tough go for them already, and there's so much pressure on her as a rookie that I personally feel a lot of compassion for her right now, because people just don't realize how much pressure has been put on that young woman because she was such a superstar in college. But the WNBA is not the college game, and it's going to take a little while for her to get to that level. It took a little while for A'ja her first year. It just takes a while to get to that level of play.
Yeah.
So she'll get there.
Yeah.
So I just hope it's a good game.
Yeah. All the same, though, go Aces.
Oh, absolutely. Go Aces.
Thanks so much for this great conversation.
My pleasure.
Before you go, I have a favor to ask. CityCast is doing our annual listener survey, and it would really help us out if you took it. It only takes 7 minutes. Please take the survey at citycast.fm/survey. That's citycast.fm/survey. Plus, get this, survey takers will also be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card and CityCast swag. That's citycast.fm/survey. And hey, even if you took it last year, we would be grateful if you took it again, since we can't use last year's data in this year's survey. Thanks so much. And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, hey, go tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care.